that I can create something like that, real quick. Um, and we have Bear.
Can't stay long.
Understand? Yeah, I know you've got. I
going
appreciate
live
you
on my
stopping in.
channel there in about 25 minutes or so, but I just want to
And
jump in.
so real quick, let me ask you this: What is your topic for tonight on your channel?
My channel? Oh, we're having Mike Lafferty and Jacob Blackmon from Painting Goat Games on to do an Electro Cube Wars demo. It's a Transformers with the serial numbers filed off game, and they're gonna run a session.
Oh, I'm gonna miss that.
Okay. Well, just wanted to get that. Just wanted to get that out of the way because I want to give you a plug. So I know that you're kind of hit and run here. But
I am legit hit and run tonight. Sadly.
So, what is your view on AI art? I mean,
I have never hidden my view on AI art ever. I will never hide my view on AI art, which is it is a fantastic pathfinding tool. From my experience making comics and my experience doing lots of other things. Artists don't appear to like doing concept work, which is weird because I've bought books of concept art, and it seems like in Hollywood everyone loves doing concept art, but in the publishing, no one wants to do concept art. They hate it. So I saved myself some money and some time by making AI art to lay out, hey, TN, to do what I want, and then be able to show an artist and go, here, this is what I'm looking for. Draw this in your style now. You know what I mean? And
so it's cool. You're kind of using it as a tool, almost as if like an artist would take a chunk of clay and create a relief of a miniature, and then take that to the master sculptor, who would then sculpt that and mass produce it.
Sure, or a maquette, or whatever the case may be. You know, it's just a sketch,
but 3D it's just rendering, whatever.
So I get what I want because I'm willing to put the time in to keep drilling down and rendering until I get an image I'm happy with. And then they get to just make some art, and it's faster for them. So hopefully they're smart enough to then take that, do my work, and take 5 other jobs that same week where they don't have to worry about just spending time going back and forth with me on a concept, right?
Right. Tien, you just joined in. I appreciate you stopping in. And I'll ask you the same question I've asked these other folks. What in a nutshell, what is your stance on AI art, its use, and where you think it's going to ultimately go?
I think I kind of feel the same way that I caught in while Seraphis was talking there, in that, it could be a good tool. It could be a good, like if you want to just pull up something really quick, like, oh, what does this look like? And you have the AI make it. But it's by no means a replacement for a human doing it, for a real artist doing it, especially if you're going to be publishing. I don't think, if your job is to produce content in books, not so much. I tried getting into it myself. I tried having an AI make a picture for me, in relation to wanting to make a channel. This was before the first stream with you guys, and it failed fantastically. I was in there and I was like, hey, draw a picture of this. And it popped up and I went, oh, can you take that picture and do this with it? And it popped back up. And 5 iterations later, I was like, this is ridiculous. This is nowhere near what I wanted.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it took a lot. And
you sweet summer child, 5 is nothing. You've got to do like 500 before you get something you want. That's the point of AI art. You just keep drilling down and down, and then randomly something happens. You go, oh, I like that. Oh, I'll just preserve that forever and go do something else with my life now. Like I'm telling you.
So, Robert, I've got a question for you. You have kind of paid attention a little bit more to the legal landscape side of all of this. What can you offer up? Like, what is the current? What do you see as being the biggest current hot topic issue here with AI?
With AI, probably the biggest current issue with it is related to forgeries. You, at least a lot of the things that are mentioned through legislation is people being concerned with, false images, scandalous things that are simply not real.
Right. Taking a celebrity's face and putting it on a naked body or something, or in a compromising position or something like that.
That is correct. There are a lot of concerns related to misinformation on both sides of the aisle. And
Right. And the artwork itself is just it is getting better and better and more realistic. And that is a concern. I do see that as being a very concerning side of it. I know that when this all first came out, there were a lot of there still are a lot of artists, and I'm not an artist, but I know that there are still a lot of artists that are very much against AI. They won't call it art. And maybe it's not to be called art. I think that term is a matter of semantics, but they say that it's taking other famous artists' work and stealing bits of it to create the artwork. Bear, go ahead.
So the nice part is if you're using Midjourney or DALL-E 3, or which is through ChatGPT 4 and all that stuff, you can't steal someone's art. You can't recreate someone's art. And hell, a lot of them are now blocking you using living people and living artists as references as a caveat. So you need to have a stable diffusion. You have to have your own setup either through, some sort of stable diffusion where it's got no rules, right? There's no limitations from the provider and you're doing it your own. Yes, then there's absolutely a threat. 99% of people using AI art are using it to make D&D characters. My friend works for a company. No joke. A friend of mine works for a company. For an AI art company, and she said other than waifu, which is the number one generated image, the second most generated image is RPG character concepts. Okay, so this idea that like people are going to forge stuff, this has been around since ink and paper were invented. Yeah. There's always that they're going to steal everything. People who want to do crime are going to find a way to do crime, whether you like it or not. There have been masterpiece art forgeries in the history of the art world for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and that's just the way it is. We always read that story about the guy who thought he had a real Rembrandt. Turned out it was a fake that was made 100 years ago. But the point is to treat this like it's the end of the world is reactionary. The media doesn't help, and all the pearl clutching doesn't help because it is not leaving. It's not going away.
No, exactly. And I think I was in a live stream with you a few nights back, and that live stream kind of prompted this one. It really got me thinking. Well, I mean, the topic of it, and that was the question that was asked of me: is where do I see it going? And I stand firm in that AI is not going anywhere. And it's been around a hell of a lot longer than a lot of people really realize. I mean, look at your calculator. I mean, that's that's an old form of artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to break it to you, but yeah, calculator is definitely that.
So there was a period where film photographers
yes.
were lamenting the digital camera, and that's not photography. And now they all use digital SLRs. You know what I mean? So it's just we got to go through the hump. Anyway, guys, I would love to stick around. This is actually a fascinating conversation, but alas, I have to go babysit people playing fake robots in disguise tonight, and that's what I'm going to do.
Hey, they're Terminators. Come on,
they're what they are. I'm not a Transformers fan, never have been, never will be. Seraphis Tiantori, nice to see you. Robert, didn't get to meet you, but I love the goth in Rome.
Thanks, Bear. Try to work in the term "go bots" as often as you can.
As in, go bot yourself.
Yeah, sure.
All right, bye, guys. Have a good one.
All right, man. Peace, love, and shrimp, man. Have a good one.
Oh, by the way, Brian.
Yes.
You brought up a calculator, and that actually reminded me of something very interesting recently in the world of AI. A few weeks ago, you might have heard that Sam Altman was briefly removed from the board of OpenAI. And apparently the reasoning for that was because their language model had managed to learn basic math, which is a huge step in AI. And he had apparently waited more than 12 hours to tell people. So
was that unprompted?
What do you mean?
Unprompted. In other words, was it not programmed in for that AI?
To my understanding, it was something that it learned organically. I am not fully aware of everything involved in it. I don't know too much behind the scenes there. But
no, and Aaron Farrow, I was specific. Actually, I didn't say it, but meant scientific calculators, by the way.
I don't know, because my understanding is that the whole concept of what separates AI from, say, calculators is it's self-learning. See, a calculator can't self-learn. A calculator, scientific calculators included, even more complex
That's
programs,
fair.
algorithms, all of that stuff is only what's programmed. And what makes AI different, and it's probably scary to most people, is its ability to learn things on its own. Like, you didn't program that in there, but it figured it out. That's what makes it, I think, scary for people. And people are always going to be scared of change. So to like what
That's
Bear was
fair.
saying, when something new comes about, people are always going to be scared.
Yeah, I mean, change is. I mean, look at what the current attitude is right now between D&D 5th edition and whatever this new one is going to be called. 5.5 or
Or
1 D,
one,
whatever
or
it is.
yeah.
There's a lot of
Next.
people that are, yeah, D&D next. There's a lot of people that are not overly thrilled with the idea of moving forward, but I embrace change. I've always loved technology. I've always loved moving forward. We've got another sect of artists that, so they'll argue, and I'm not taking sides here, by the way. I'm just posing the questions. I'm asking the questions because I do have a genuine interest in trying to understand both sides of that fence. But I know a few artists out there will counter argue that, well, because it's stealing other people's artwork and making a piece of artwork, that those original artists should be paid for that. Counter argument to that is, have you ever pirated a book? And that's something going on right now real big in the D&D industry, specifically with Dungeons and Dragons, is that people are opting to pirate the latest books. The moment they come out, you'll see scans of the Book of Many Things, for example, just came out this past Monday, and I've already seen online scans, PDF versions of it, where people are pirating it. So are those same people that are so against AI artwork, are some of them also pirating these books? If so, why are they not contributing the money to those artists and those creators that made that book? Or is it simply because they're so against Wizards of the Coast specifically that they don't want to share that money?
I would say it's got to. I feel like it's probably the latter, and I feel like you might be talking about two different camps of people.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, because what Bear mentioned about the top things that were made is RPG related stuff. I kind of tilted my head to the side of that, like, huh, really? Like, of all the stuff, of all the AI artwork out there, you're telling me that the number one thing is like D&D characters? I still, as large as it is, I still thought D&D was kind of a niche thing. I figured if the millions of people out there using AI, there's got to be more stuff going on with it. That's the number one thing? Question mark?
It is a little surprising, that number, to me, that it's up there, even in the top 5 subjects of AI, or stuff that's being rendered as AI graphics or artwork. It only comes up. I only am aware of it because that's the circle that I run in. Now, if I were in the, I don't know, political arena, if I were in the celebrity arena, I'm sure that I would be exposed more to those. But even, let's see, I'll jump into, well, actually, I'm not going to jump into, I was going to jump into Midjourney's Discord and share that on screen, but I don't want to violate. Well, you know what? There shouldn't be any violation because you can't copyright AI artwork. So just scrolling through, looking at, I don't know, a show and tell channel, for example. I mean, to me, that's D&D related. That's role playing related. This is, some of it's not. That's not.
I wonder if, as you're scrolling through these, and I'm just thinking out loud, so by all means, tell me if I'm talking too much or something. But I'm wondering if maybe thinking of the talent pools of your typical players, like all of the D&D players that I've ever DM'd for, and myself included, are not artists. We have such creative minds, and we can see things in our minds. But two of all the people I've DM'd for could actually draw to any extent. So I wonder if maybe, because real artists who already have talent or who already have capability, who've already been doing it, can just produce that art. But D&D players, my experience is that they tend to be less able to do that.
Yeah. And Aaron Farr brings up a very excellent point. I think hands down, if AI or if the folks behind the scenes running the AI stuff didn't have that filter on there to make that prohibitive, I definitely think that porn would easily be the number one spot of generations. What image that's being created. Let's see. The next question that I've got: where do each and Seraphis, will start with you. Where do you see AI ultimately going? Let me get a little more specific. Where do you see it a year from now? Where do you see it 5 years from now? Again, specific to our little circle.
Oh, I'd say in about a year from now, I wouldn't be surprised if, it's thoroughly dominating, the artwork scene at that point. Let's be fair, it's probably he's probably going to introduce that AI DM thing. No one's going to be surprised at that, or at least no one who has half a brain is going to be surprised at that.
Agreed.
But in 5 years' time, this is probably going to disappear. It's probably going to fade away again as a fad. It's going to come, it's going to go. These things frequently don't have staying power. It's like 3D. 3D has these rises in, 3D films. Wow.
Right,
and then it disappears again. Then, a decade later, it's back again. And then it goes away. And
that's an interesting point, and that's something that I haven't actually really considered. But you know what, you've convinced me. I had two very definitive answers for that, but I think your estimation for 5 years out, I think that's pretty spot on. And you're bringing up the 3D. What was it? The iPhone that originally came out with that 3D camera. And the Android followed one iteration or two iterations later, and those are gone now, as best I know. I mean, I don't see anybody ever posting 3D pictures anymore. Robert, well, I'll ask the same question to you, Robert. Where do you see it in a year? Where do you see it in 5 years?
I believe it is going to utterly dominate the creative industry. The reason being is that, think of it in the same way that agricultural equipment replace, a bunch of farmers out in a field. It's something that you are reducing your overall costs with. Will the quality be lower? Certainly. But I believe it will sort of become an industry standard, both in artwork, quite possibly in writing. And now that it's got the ability to functionally do math, you might even start seeing something in there with mechanical development.
And T and Tori, what about you? Same question.
I can kind of see both. I mean, I was really on board with what Seraphis was saying there in terms of it could be like a fad type thing, because I could kind of see this going full circle. Right now, AI it's so powerful and it can let us do all of these things. Like I could generate, even though I'm not generating it, I can generate beautiful masterpieces, and it gives power to people who didn't have power to an extent, creative power. But then I also see this future where, as a society, we kind of come to this place where we sort of miss the human element, to where humans doing art is like a retro thing, or if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it could come around for a circle. At the same time, though, I kind of see Robert's point of view in fields outside of D&D where it's just going to become the new norm. I mean, when you think about it, think about spreadsheets or computers or stuff like that. it's now everything is digitized. I'm getting to the point even myself where I'm almost not even journaling with a paper journal anymore, because having Notions in my phone is just
Right.
it's
Yeah.
there everywhere. Even though I prefer pen and paper, sometimes the productivity output outweighs the preference. So I can kind of really see both things, especially I think it'll vary from
Yeah.
field to field.
Well, and I'll give you a quick shout out on that. Anybody, it is called Notions, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Whatever
you got to
email.
check out Tian Tori's channel. She's got there's a program walkthrough that she did for a thing called Notions. And if you are a DM, Dungeon Master, Game Master, Storyteller, whatever, it is a really awesome set of software.
And it's free. Totally
And
free.
it's free. Now, Michael Chad brings up a really good topic here. And it's a great segue into this. A friend of mine already has ChatGPT GM running for both D&D and Traveler. And I use ChatGPT. This is a different take on AI. And I don't hear too much like we've got a lot of artists that are very much against Midjourney, Dolly, the image generation part of AI, but I don't really hear too many authors getting up in arms about the Chat GPT side. That doesn't mean that they're not. It's just that's not the circle that I really run in, so I'm not exposed to it if they are. But I did a good while ago on my YouTube channel it was a feature where I had ChatGPT help me write a D&D campaign, and I did a video of it. I mean, you guys can check it out, but I thought it was kind of cool. I didn't use it word for word, and I took the meat of what ChatGPT gave, and then I took that and edited it and made it my own. But I saw it as a tool, not as a replacement to a writer. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if I saw somebody like, I'm not going to say Stephen King. I don't think he would ever do something like this, but I can see a writer taking Chat GPT and creating a full-fledged book and trying to pass it off as their original, and trying to get a book deal out of it. I don't think that that's quite right. And I think I'm trying to formulate the exact words here, but I think that's really my biggest takeaway is I see the AI as more tools, but I also fully realize, and this is why I'm on the fence with it, it's hard for me to take it aside either way. While I see it personally as a tool, I can see people using it as a weapon. And when I say weapon, I mean weapon. Although, I mean, there are some AI software out there, and Robert, I'll let you speak on this one. I know that there's AI software out there outside of the realm of D&D and ChatGPT that is being used to predict with pretty scary accuracy what stock markets are going to be doing. Have you heard much about that part of it?
I am not terribly familiar with that aspect of it. No.
Okay.
It does not surprise me though.
It's and that's so I'll answer my own question where I see everything in a year versus 5 years. I think that it'll be a two-part answer. In a year, I think the landscape is drastically going to be different than what we see it today. I think that it will be more hardcore mainstream. I think a lot more people will be using it. I think that a lot of artists that are being vocal against it today will be using it as a tool in the future, as a tool, not as a replacement for their talent, but as a tool. But I see in 5 years, exactly what Serapha said. I see the art side of it dropping as more of a fad, but I see the programming side becoming ingrained in almost everyday life. And what I mean by that is you've already got self-driving cars. You've got apps that help you do anything and everything under the sun. And I really think that if you tether that into somebody's ability to make money via Wall Street, predict what stocks are going to do with a degree of accuracy, 5 years kind of in that respect looks a little scary. I don't think that we'll ever actually see a Skynet type Terminator situation. That's a little far fetched, but I can easily see a situation in which AI could be used to pull off cyber attacks. I mean, if you want to go down the scary side of things,
yeah, 100%. If not already being,
if it's
well,
exactly,
yeah,
if it's not already
it's already
being done.
used in software development pretty extensively, as I understand it. But you talked about it being a tool, and the first thing that comes to mind is, well, a chef's knife is a tool, a chainsaw is a tool. You know, it's so normalized to us that sometimes we forget that, but there's so many things that we have at our disposal that are tools, and when used improperly become dangerous. And, you know, a gun falls under that same argument for a lot of people, depending on what side of the fence you
Right.
land on. But I've heard that argument used against any kind of weaponry to that extent too.
Well, I mean, and I guess for that matter, I mean, a webcam is a tool. You know, my microphone is a tool. Anything could be used as a tool for its intended use. And I think that's the key difference is when you take that tool and you use it for something that's not its intended use, that's when things get dangerous. You know, to go back to your chainsaw analogy there. Yeah, you know what? If I use a chainsaw wrong, I'm going to be losing some fingers, a leg. That could be very bad. But as long as you use it correctly, and I think that's the biggest challenge is there's no regulation out there right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
My
the only
boss called it
regulation
the Wild West.
it is the Wild West. It's
Yeah.
companies are self-regulating. You know, that's why we don't have AI porn, because those companies don't allow that. You know, even Photoshop's generative fill doesn't allow you know, pornography to be, you know, you can't put those keywords in, you know, and I think that's fine. I have no issues with that, but you know, somebody somewhere is probably downloading, or I say probably, I mean, hell, it's just a Google search, I'm sure, has already created their own database and are probably using it for those reasons, you know, to do AI porn. I'm
sure it's stuff you can already find on the dark web.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I was thinking dark web. Yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff out there, but it doesn't necessarily make it right. But then that opens up the whole different can of worms is who defines what's right? You know, where is that moralistic line drawn of how one uses Midjourney, for example? You know, if you know, I did an image of the TARDIS, and you know, I mean, I don't know if now that Disney is a part of it, could they come after me for showing this on my, you know, on my stream? Am I going to find myself in legal trouble or in copyright violation? Well, you know what? Is that a TARDIS? I don't see the term. Well, actually, right up there, I see the term TARDIS. But that begs the question. You know, I don't know. I don't know where this is going to go.
I think and a lot of us don't, and I think that's why panels like this happen and discussions like this happen, is because a lot of people are asking themselves in different realms, everywhere from D&D to software, you know, art. It's, you know, a lot of people are having this exact discussion around this time. So,
right.
Yeah. Sobering thoughts.
Well, it is a sobering thought, and that was really kind of the main drive behind me wanting to do this specific topic on a live stream. I could have easily done a video, you know, and I like to keep my videos less than 8 minutes because I don't know, I like the short and sweet stuff. But this is a topic that it's a hot debate. I mean, and like I said, I'm on both sides of that fence, and I think effectively for me to do a video, I'd have to take a side, and I can't. I don't. Because I side with the artists. I do see that it's not right for AI to steal someone else's artwork and incorporate it into a larger piece. I'll agree with that. On the other hand, like what Bear was saying earlier, is that he uses it as to create concept and then takes that to an artist to do the final version. And I like the fact that I could use AI as a tool, but again, I realize that's me personally using it and not what the masses out there might be using it for.
You're kind of relying on you're kind of relying on the individual responsibility of the people involved at that point. Right. And it's like, how much, because part of me thinks that a lot of this boils down to a little bit faith in humanity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It boils down to faith in humanity, but it also takes on the shade of, I don't want someone telling me how I can use it, because I know I'm not going to use it for nefarious reasons.
Yeah. But you also understand that some degree, because I'm a very, this may be a little bit of my country coming out in me, but I'm a very pro individual freedom. I'm a very minimalistic government. I don't, there's a lot of things that they say, oh, you can and can't do this. And I'm like, but who gets to decide that? But then again, I trust myself. But how comfortable would I feel trusting that same level of open? I have to be comfortable trusting that level of openness in another individual. And there's definitely like a point where, something has to be, some groundwork has to be laid. Otherwise, you're just going to have, like you said, the Wild West, and then it's anyone's guess, and that's equally scary. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's the same thing, for me with alcohol. I live in a dry county, but I drink. I would like to see it become a wet county. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't drink every single night. But I enjoy the occasional beverage. And Seraphis, you're shaking your head.
I can't get my head around the idea of a dry county or things like that. Like, as an Australian, I'm literally 2 doors away from a bottle. It's within walking distance for me to have access to pretty much every type of alcohol. Yeah, like it boggles my mind that you guys have.
Okay, so that's an interesting topic too. We'll kind of go off on a slight tangent here, because where I'm at, like I said, it's a dry county. I don't feel like I should be held to. I don't want to be told, no, you can't go to the liquor store and buy something because we've decided that you can't do that. But on the other hand, I know too, if I decide right now I'm going to go up to the grocery store, there's a pretty good chance that I'm not going to get hit by a drunk driver. But I don't even think that would happen if I was in a wet county. I really don't. Let me rephrase. I'm going to backtrack a touch. I think that I could just as easily get hit by a drunk driver in a dry county as I could in a wet county. I mean, you're playing odds at that point. But I think my bigger point to make is I don't like that somebody has made that decision for me.
Yeah.
I want to be able to make that decision for myself. I think I'm mature enough to be able to determine what I can purchase, what I don't need to purchase. Likewise, with this AI, I feel like I'm mature enough to be able to use it how I feel is morally acceptable. But there are others out there that just, they're all or nothing. And that is a concept that I have a hard time wrapping my head around, is that all or nothing concept.
Yeah, because the more open something is in terms of from a regulation standpoint, because I'm with you, I don't like someone else telling me what I can and cannot do. I live in a place.
Oh, we lost you.
There's
Hey,
guns are
there we
pretty
go.
prevalent. I live in a place where it's commonplace for people to have weaponry all over, particularly with households with no children in them. But even then, there's, hunters out here that are 15 years old. It's
Yeah.
not unusual or strange to me. But, by living in that place, you're kind of living in the assumption that the guy, driving across from you is responsible with his gun, so to speak. I'll just use guns because there's a lot of
Sure.
hunters around here. It's a hunting place, so it's kind of like when you have openness. Like, I'm all for openness. It just you have to be willing to accept the fact that you're extending that openness to other people. And as we just established, none of us question the fact that there's porn stuff all over the dark web and AI being used incorrectly all over the place. So it's like I'm kind of in a place where it's like I feel like there might need to be like some degree of regulation. Otherwise, nobody's got nothing. But it could get very dangerous if taken too far the other direction. So I'm hoping for like a balance in the middle where we try as much as possible,
Yeah.
because I don't feel that it should be completely all the way open, but I don't think it should be regulated to the point where, no one can use it at all.
Well, and like we keep alluding to, I mean, it at that point kind of becomes the wild. Well, I mean, we're experiencing it as being in the wild, wild west. So yeah, I mean, I certainly agree. I think that there needs to be some form of regulation, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what YouTube decides is AI. They're supposed to release at some point this year their guidelines on how the extent of what you can integrate into your videos using AI, because there's a lot of videos out there that are 100% AI imagery and AI or text to speech AI type, where it's not actually a human speaking, it's a computer speaking. And I don't think that they really like that as a way to monetize. Likewise, it opens itself up to, by YouTube not putting in these rules and regulations, opens themselves up to, I think, some form of litigation, only by sheer fact that you could put Trump up there saying something. You could put Obama up there saying something now. And we've already kind of seen this with a couple, and they're hilarious, by the way. But it's between Trump, Elon Musk, Joe Biden, and Obama, and a few other celebrities, all AI playing D&D. And I don't know if you guys have watched any of that stuff, but it is so
glorious.
funny. Yeah, it is hilarious.
Apparently I need to check that out. I saw some thumbnail at some point about the gaming one, but I just scrolled past it.
Yeah, it's worth watching. Some of them, I mean, it gets old after a while because it kind of becomes the same thing over and over and over, the same gags over and over and over. But it's pretty funny. But
the one I watched of those was one done in the Warhammer 40k universe. And
yes.
I saw that one and thought I didn't need to watch the D&D ones. That one was probably going to be best.
Yeah, and that's what's scary about it is the vocal inflections of the AI in that is, I mean, if you were just kind of scrolling past it on your television, you wouldn't know that it was fake, and I think that's what YouTube is specifically finger pointing at, is that they don't want to run a risk of altering an election due to, or have someone post a video that could potentially alter an election because it is a perceived political figure that's not real. Or what was it? We had a month ago, 2 months ago, an AI break, or somebody hacked into one of Russia's TV stations and supposedly had Putin on there speaking about a war starting or troops entering the country. I vaguely recall it, but I mean that, going off on a completely different tangent than AI artwork and D&D. I mean, that's where AI can become very dangerous. And
Yeah.
I think that there, like you said, Tori, there really needs to be regulation.
I
Yeah,
heard it described. I heard it described once that security and freedom are on a teeter-totter opposed to each other. That you can, for all you give up of one, you sacrifice more of the other. So if you want to be more secure, that means giving up more and more freedoms. If you want to be
right.
free, then that means giving up more and more security. So, and everybody's going to land differently on what they decide
Exactly.
is good for them. One thing that I'm wondering about, I'll just pop that out there for discussion's sake, is the responsibility of the reader. Something I don't hear talked about a lot, but this was big during the last election when the fake news started really gaining
Right.
ground, was the whole concept of, but how responsible am I to fact check the stuff I'm watching? I mean, we live in an age where, and I hate to sound like my grandpa or whatever, but we live at a point in time where all I have to do is go like this for 5 seconds, and now all of a sudden I'm an expert, and it's like, okay, but
Right.
no. So there's regulation on the AI part. There's responsibility on the user. If I'm the chef in the kitchen and I'm wielding the knife, it's my responsibility to be cognizant of where that knife is and what's going on.
Right.
At the same time, though, as receivers of that, and D&D is interesting because it's nothing I do in my campaign is known to any of you guys unless I deliberately post it on my video. But
Right.
what's at my table stays at my table. And D&D is unique because it's so personal to us. I can
Mhm.
use AI to my heart's content. I'm not monetizing it. I'm not, it's just me and a group of friends. But, it gets different when you get public about it. But anyways, those were some thoughts I had as you were talking. I wanted to just pop those out there.
Yeah, no, and that's it. It does. This completely aside, I've been asked the same question. Hey Brian, why don't you ever do any live plays with your group? And well, I mean, the biggest reason is I've got 2 minors that are in the group, and um, I just don't want to run. I don't want to go down that road of uh, mm, putting them on screen and trying to make money off of something like that. And two, it's, I don't know. It is a personal thing to me when I run my games that I don't really want to share that with the whole world. Not that
Yeah.
the whole world is watching my channel, but I mean, I just
Yeah, you're
it's
just putting
personal
it
to
out
me.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's not to say that I wouldn't attempt to do a live stream or a real play that doesn't involve my main group. I mean, I'd be open to it, but yeah. Anyway, I did want to answer that. I mean, somebody can find that little nugget buried in this stream if they are watching it. But
By the
but
way, you
yeah,
mentioning things where they can have a significant negative impact.
hmm
Uh, I don't want to go into too much detail on it because it's sort of topical right now in the world of politics, but following all of the documents coming out about a certain island, there have been a
right,
lot of photoshops or AI generated art trying to place people associated with that, including political figures,
right,
even in cases where that's patently false.
right,
And that is just another thing where this gains traction, it circulates, and you have a lot of people on both sides of the spectrum ideologically that are posting these things on Twitter that are deemed to, have some degree of credibility. People are seeing it,
right,
and all of a sudden, whether it's fake or not doesn't matter. It becomes common
It
knowledge, if
becomes
you will,
true. Yeah.
becomes true in the eyes of the
right,
masses.
right. Well,
Yeah,
and
there's a proverb about that, isn't there? Where there's actually I think like a famous author wrote something about that, where all you have to do is repeat something over and over enough times, and then it becomes truth, regardless of how true it really is.
mhm. Yeah, and Bearcat brings up, I mean, this kind of tethers into that topic too. You know, how responsible is my 7-year-old nephew if someone deep fakes a Minecraft YouTuber he likes? And that is a scary thing to think about, in that, you know, and I don't know what measures, you know, YouTube ultimately has in place to prevent that kind of stuff, but I can see a situation where a lot of YouTubers or a lot of Minecraft YouTubers are faceless. You know, they get on there, and some of them have, you know, their face down in this lower corner of the screen, but that within itself is so small you could probably fake that too. But if they get in there, and the 7-year-old is watching it because they really like Minecraft, and all of a sudden in the middle of play, this faked channel starts talking about all kinds of unsafe things, where you know what, yeah, I mean, and this all goes back to AI can be used for dangerous things. That's what kind of makes it scary, in my opinion.
It is scary.
Because
I
there
think.
are, well, it's
Yeah.
like the Joker, you know, or what Alfred says about the Joker. You know, some men just want to watch the world burn, and some people will do that kind of stuff just for sheer fact of pissing someone else off or trying to scare someone else,
Or even that they can.
or just the fact that they can do it. Yeah,
just because. Yeah.
but I'm going to shift topics a touch, and Robert, I'll start off with you with this question. What good do you see coming out of AI? Like, what are some of the good uses you think it could be used for?
Across the spectrum of all topics, again, going back to the fact that it is able to do basic math now. It was Galileo who said that God created the world and he wrote it in the language of math. The ability to have that, I believe, will dramatically aid the engineering world in designing things. I do expect that to ultimately be the case. I mean, we are humans. We are, you know, it's hard to wrap our minds around complex systems, but, you know, you get a few crays together, plug your AI into that, and all of a sudden you are, you know, thinking with the capacity of hundreds of people at once and able to, you know, get by without even having a conversation. It just sort of comes to its conclusion.
And I think at that point, then Terminator doesn't seem too terribly far off.
I don't think it is. I think it's possible. And I think that largely just boils down to which ideology wins the war for the mind on AI. I mean, you've got Microsoft, you know, wanting to push it to its limits. You've got OpenAI, which is back to being Sam Altman, who is wanting to, you know, push it but still be safe. And then you have the more Muskian approach of, oh my God, this is terrifying.
Yeah.
So it just sort of comes down to which is which.
And Seraph, same question to you. What good do you see coming out of using AI? And it could be either, you know, specific to how I kind of use it with concept art with D&D, or across the spectrum of AI, you know, via software or whatever.
Personally, I'd like to see the end result of AI getting to a point like in Star Trek The Next Generation. I'd like it to be like the LCARS. It would be fantastic to be able to have AI be able to consult the wealth of human knowledge and be able to return the relevant information to you, or to be able to, you know, use information to create a simulation of a place, like in the holodeck, things like that. You know, that would be a really good end result of where this technology could theoretically lead.
Just as long as Moriarty is not in it. And T and Tori, I'll ask you the same question. What good do you see that AI could be used for?
That's I'm a little bit with Seraphin. I like the idea that it could be. Of course, we already have search engine algorithms, so we already have something that mimics that, but with more active human interaction. Because you have to actually search for the thing you want. You have to actually parse through your results because yeah, but there's like so much going through my brain, and I'm
Yeah.
like, how do I
Oh, I
parse
know.
this
I get
down?
it. I get it.
One thing that, I'd like to see something good. Now, just hear me out on this. But if I had to say, like, what's something good that could come out of AI, I would say our learning experience as a culture, as a society, or group of societies, and how we handle it. I want to see something when I say something good come out of it. I want to see it in such a way where we can have conversations like this and we can come together because we've got this big scary thing in front of us that we need to deal with. So if there was like a good I would hope to see out of it, it would be a semi-unified handling of it. Yeah.
Well, guys, we're encroaching upon about an hour. That's about how long I plan to do this. But I do want to go around the table here. Tori, we'll start with you. Do you have any questions that that we likely can't answer about AI?
Oh gosh. Not questions so much as just more talking points. Your timing is perfect. I actually need to head out myself, but I appreciate you guys having
Yeah, I
me
used
here.
AI to figure that out.
No, I always appreciate being on your streams, but this one in particular was really interesting. I'm probably gonna end up going back and watching it just to like
Yeah, me too.
listen to everything. But I definitely look forward. This may be a little bit ostrichy of me, but I kind of look forward to, okay, we had a nice long serious discussion. Let's go back to just, swords and D&D and simple things. There's a part
Yeah.
of my brain that is too intimidated by it, and I want to just go back to my simple life because I got enough to worry about as is.
Well, and I think that's part of what I wanted to talk, why I wanted to do this particular topic is, I don't get too much into the deep nitty gritty of stuff. And ultimately, yes, I am going to return back to the simple swords and pokey sticks and spell slinging of D&D. But this is a big topic in our realm, in our industry, in our hobby. And I just felt that I would be remiss if I didn't try to talk a little bit about it because, I wanted my broader audience to kind of understand where my mindset was. I use Midjourney to help me with my thumbnails. Sometimes I'll use them as, I'll do a little, my left right here. Okay. I'll do a little pop up in a blank space here, in my videos. And sometimes those images I'll use, for Midjourney to create the little graphic for that. And I personally don't find anything wrong with that. I don't have the money. I'm not a Mr. Beast person that can go out there and pay an artist, $200 to create a little art graphic that's going to pop up in my video for 12 seconds.
Yeah.
I will guarantee you this, should GameMasters take off to the point where I have Mr. Beast subscriber numbers and I've got that revenue coming in, 100% guarantee you every piece of artwork that pops up and uses in a thumbnail will be done by a human artist, and I will pay them handsomely for that. So subscribe. And while I'll use this as a quick segue to thank my channel supporters here. These guys have given me so much support. They make it so that the majority of my videos I don't have to take on sponsored ads for. And if anybody wants to support the channel via a YouTube membership or Patreon membership, there'll be a link in the description after the video. Robert, I'll ask you the same question. I mean, do you, Mr. GameMasters, yeah. Do you see, or do you rather have any burning questions that we probably won't be able to answer about AI?
My biggest question comes down to how legislation for this will actually wind up playing out to regulate it. Given the current environment, I believe I cited this on your Discord, but I think it was about 10 years ago. The city of New York implemented certain handgun restrictions that were so overzealous, it actually kept the local police officers from being able to carry their service weapons.
Wow.
And personally, I mean, they rectified that within a couple of days, and nobody
Sure.
was charged, obviously, but it was just humorous. But a part of me thinks we're going to see some kind of overzealous legislation just to sort of appease the masses, given all of the other context. And I am curious, if that happens, how quickly aspects of that will be walked back.
Yeah, and I certainly can see that too. We certainly have our fair share of overzealous politicians that feel like their decisions are best for everybody, and it's probably best for them and them alone. But there's certainly no shortage of them shoving that agenda onto the masses. And yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of it's just a question of time as to, when that's going to happen and how quickly they'll end up having to walk back some of it, if they walk back any of it. That's a question we certainly can't answer. So I appreciate that.
I do think lobbyists will make sure some of it's walked back.
Yeah. And Seraphis, I'll ask you the same thing. What burning AI question do you have?
Well, I'm not going to comment on how it's going to affect your country. I mean, my country can't even really get its cyber warfare protection in order. So, I think we're still a few decades out from tackling the AI thing. But I don't know.
It's just out there. I mean,
that's
I mean, it's AI is out there, and I think, as I said at the top of this video, I don't see it going anywhere. I see it just, I see it moving ahead, full steam ahead. I see fuel behind it, keeping it going, and it's one of those things that really the only way that it could be stopped is if we had a solar flare of some sort that knocked out the internet. That's it.
Well, he's hoping for the Assassin's Creed end of the world thing going on there.
Well, but then again, should we have that solar flare happen, AI might just become sentient, and then we might actually have that Terminator scenario on our hands.
See, I don't see that happening. I don't know why.
All praise the AI overlord.
Well, guys, I appreciate it. I think that we've I don't think that we have exhausted the topic, but I don't know. I don't know that we could really solve anything by continuing the banter. I mean, there's not. I don't see an easy solution that four folks could come up with. I think that we could all offer our own opinions about it, and I don't think any one of us would be wrong about those opinions. I think that we could come up with our own solutions for it, and I think that every solution that we came up with would be a correct solution. I side with the artists in that I don't think that it's right for AI to pull from artists that do not opt into using their talents. I side with the non-artists in that I like it as a tool. I've stated that earlier in this video or live stream, and I don't know. I can't make a decision either way.
It's too nuanced.
It is. It is, and it's still very. I think personally, it's still a very new form of technology. It's hit mainstream, so it's a hot topic, but there's so much about it that we just don't fully understand. I personally would like to delve into and do a bit more research on how AI learns, and exactly because I'll bring this image back up. I refuse to believe that any little part like the little light up, the light right here, or this says bowl box, BOLE box, or this little, although this is on the wrong side of the door, but let's get nitpicky here. I refuse to believe that any little stroke in this piece was stolen from another artist. I don't see how how that could happen. But I very well admit that I could be very wrong about that, because I don't fully understand how it pulls that image together. So that's a failing on my part, because I don't fully understand it. And that's part of why I wanted to do this, because I wanted to get those questions out there, those thoughts out there, and then start my investigative process on what makes it tick. Before we head out, I want to give everybody an opportunity to plug whatever they're going for. Seraphis, I know you've got a channel that you're starting to build up.
Yeah, but it's basically just streaming when I do one of these with you,
Understood.
or every so often when I, Crush Bear's stream.
Understood. Well, it's always fun having you on. I like what you have to say, and it's always fun to bounce ideas and thoughts around. Tiantori, about you, what would you like to plug or talk about real quick?
I say I stream early in the morning every Saturday. I have my channel. It's Tiantori. I have my own D&D video, next one, that is like 70% done. So cross your
Nice.
fingers, it'll actually be posted next week. So I appreciate all of the support for all the people from Bears community and your community that came over and subbed for sure. But yeah, feel free to go check it out and just, yeah.
And Robert, anything you'd like to plug?
Yes. I have a podcast. We are just getting started.
Yes, I tuned into it today. I actually listened to it at work. It was a little over an hour, hour and 20 minutes long or so.
Yeah, we only actually expected it to be about 30 minutes, and the
way it always happens.
It is, but I do that along with one of my colleagues named Colton. We have both worked as political, business, all manner of types of consulting for years, and we generally just address topics of, or our goal ultimately is to address topics of politics, business, pop culture, history, and just a variety of things, and providing the general banter associated with two people that have dealt with it professionally, all the while trying to avoid actually taking a side, considering that we work for everybody.
I get that. I perfectly understand that. Well, guys, do me a favor. The three of y'all have my Discord. Jump in there, send me a link to your pages, and I will put that in the description of this video. I'd like to push as much traffic as I can your way. And as for everybody else, I certainly appreciate you tuning in and listening to this crazy little talk about AI artwork. And see if I can do my regular sign off here. Until next our paths cross, may none of you come face to face with a Terminator. Have a good evening, everybody.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.